Welcome to Stack Kings Live Week 3 NFL edition. We had a big game last night between Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Atlanta blew them out. It was just absolutely one-sided from the beginning to the end. Matt Ryan threw for a lot of yards. Julio Jones showed off his show. And I just think Lovie Smith, he could be on the hot seat already after 3 games, 0-3 Tampa Bay. What do you think?
Hester's in the history books now.
Unbelievable. Past Deion Sanders for the most return yards from punt returns and kick returns. Unbelievable. So we're going right into this. What I'm going to do today is explain a little bit about the new format. Number one, we're not going to do a dark horse anymore as far as below a certain percentage salary-wise. We're just going to give you the best value on the board for your buck. So here we go. We're going to go right into it. Quarterback for me is Russell Wilson. He is playing versus Denver at home. He is probably the best, most underrated quarterback in the league right now, in my opinion. He has a 112.7 rating at home over his last 3 years. He's playing Denver at home. It should be a shootout. It's the Super Bowl rematch from a year ago, and I just feel like it's going to get into a pass game. Denver is 31st against the league against the pass. That's terrible. And I just feel like Russell Wilson, when he throws the ball, is very effective. They just don't give him the chances to throw it. But when they do, he fires and he connects and he throws touchdown passes. He's thrown 26 touchdown passes the last 2 years. He's already got 4 touchdown passes to 0 interceptions this year. So I like Russell Wilson.
I'll tell you another guy who matches up well tonight or on Sunday, and that's going to be Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck going up against Jacksonville. He's priced at $16.7K. He's averaging 24.5 fantasy points a game. The Stanford product, he's averaged 270 passing yards per game against the Jags in his promising young career. The Colts outscored their divisional opponent 63-13 last season. Something to look at. Kirk Cousins tore apart Jags the secondary last week, 250 yards for 2 touchdowns. And then Foles the week before had his way with them. So Luck, he's had history against the Jags, and I think it's going to be a pummel fest, an AFC South pummel fest, absolutely. And Luck could provide some great value.
And Indianapolis can't run the ball, so Luck's going to have to throw. And Bradshaw out of the backfield is a great weapon as well. So
we'll get to him later.
I like that. I like that pick a lot. Going to my running back value pick, $14,965. The man that could be the #1 back. I know there's a lot of backs going down. Adrian Peterson's in trouble. Jamal Charles has an injury. So basically we come down to Murray. He could emerge as the #1 back. He's playing at St. Louis, the worst team in the league. They're 29th against the run. Just a little stat for you on DeMarco Murray. He's averaging 5.3 yards a carry when he plays inside a dome. He's going to be playing inside a dome this week against a terrible run defense. I don't see how St. Louis... I know the Cowboys' defense is bad. I just don't see how St. Louis can score in this game. If the Cowboys get any sort of lead, they're going to feed it to Murray. I see him having a huge game, well over 100 yards and a TD at least. And so, one more stat I want to throw at you. In Murray's career, he's averaging 5 yards a carry, 5.5 in 2011, 4.1 in 2012, which was his down year, 5.2 in 2013, and again 5.6 this year. So he's shown that he is an NFL running back. He's showing it this year, and I think he could emerge as the top 1 or 2 back this year, and in this week especially, huge game.
Well, I'm taking a guy who's often by committee, and that's Stephen Ridley of the New England Patriots. Belichick, he's remaining equivocal as to who he's going to use and when he's going to use them. However, you look at Ridley last week, he ran with purpose with 101 yards, his best game since week 9 of last year. He's going up against the Oakland Raiders, who have been absolutely horrible this year. League last 200 rushing yards per game on 5 yards per carry they're giving up right now. I like Ridley, 25 touches last week. I know Vereen's in there a lot, but I'll tell you what, if this game gets out of hand early, you could see Ridley get in there and he might be getting some touches, especially in stat padding time when the Patriots have the lead late in the 3rd or 4th quarter. So I think you have to start Ridley. And one stat to turn your attention to, I know we're talking about a different Oakland Raider team, but in 2011, Ridley rushed for 97 yards and a touchdown on just 10 carries against them. So that's a stat to keep in mind. He historically has done well against the Raiders, and I look for him to continue to do so on Sunday.
You must be reading my mind, Frank, because I have Stephen Ridley as well. $8,754. I think he's a great value. He's playing, like he said, the Raiders. They're the worst team in the league against the run. They've given up 200 yards on average the last 2 weeks. So just pathetic. Their team overall is just pathetic. Dennis Allen is on his way out. He is not the answer there. It's been trouble for the Raiders for years now. It's going to get worse this week. I see New England getting a lead in this game and just feeding Ridley the ball. Bringing it out of the backfield will happen a few times. But Ridley, for the most part, should get 20-plus carries. And I think I see him coming close to 100 yards and a touchdown. I love Ridley this week. So that's my value. That's my second value pick for running back.
Well, for my next value pick, and we mentioned him before, and that's Ahmad Bradshaw of Indianapolis Colts. He's going up against Jacksonville, just a horrible defense, and continuing over from last year. He's at 9.5K. The thing with Bradshaw is that he's number 2 on the depth chart. I don't think that's going to continue for much longer. Trent Richardson has proved that he lacks competence as an NFL back. Bradshaw, I like his 5.3 yards per carry this year, 10 receptions on 11 targets. So I think there might be a shifting of the stead in Indy this year. He received 18 touches in week 2, so he's certainly getting the ball. And I think you take his touches, and as well as the Jaguars' defense, which has allowed 4 touchdowns to running backs in 2 games, the Eagles and the Redskins, and he's seeing frequent red zone time. So this all bodes well for Bradshaw on Sunday.
It doesn't help that Richardson looks, just absolutely.
Does he look bad or what?
He's been terrible. He looks like a fat hog running through the line. He can't even get through it. He drops down to his knees before he gets 3 yards. He's horrible. Ahmad Bradshaw is so much the better back. He was always effective when he played for the Giants. He's just had injury troubles. He seems healthy. Luck likes him, especially in a PPR league when he's coming out of the backfield for those catches. I like that pick a lot, especially in a PPR league like StatKings is. Let's move on. I'm going to go to wide receiver, unless you had somebody else.
I have one honorable mention, a running back in that, Zach Stacy. And why I like Stacy is it comes down to volume. The guy is going to get touches. He had 19 touches last week. He's being utilized in 40% of the Rams' red zone attempts. So he's a guy that's certainly going to get the ball. I know Dallas has proved that they can defend the run a little bit this year, but Zach Stacy, just out of sheer use, could be a good play at 11.5K.
I think Dallas is going to stack the line against him, and I didn't think he showed a lot last year. I actually am a little bit off that pick, but that's all right.
For honorable mention.
Honorable mention. There you go. Well, it doesn't matter. Just because I disagree doesn't mean, that's
sure.
all right. It's just I think he averaged under 4 yards a carry last year. I just think he's overrated. That's just my opinion on Zach Stacy. Let's go to wide receiver. My first guy is Keenan Allen. He's going to be playing at the Buffalo Bills, who have been playing just really well so far, but they're 28th in the league versus the pass. People forget about Keenan Allen. He had 71 catches for 1,046 yards last year with 8 touchdowns. Those are really good numbers. He can get open versus a lot of players. Like I said, I've been telling people that I like this guy on film. He still looks good to me. He's fighting a little bit of an injury bug this week, but I think he's going to be fine, and I think he's going to put up some big points this week against a Buffalo defense.
I had him as my third value at wide receiver, and yes, he injured his groin yesterday in practice. But he does match up well against Buffalo that struggled against the pass this year. I was going to say later on that, and I'll just say it now, Mike Wallace. I was kind of struggling between Wallace and Allen, and if Allen can't go on Sunday, obviously I think you got to take Mike Wallace against the Chiefs. But let me go back to my first value pick, Tony, and that's Andre Johnson of the Texans.
Okay.
Going up against this abysmal Giants defense and secondary is just atrocious. 9.9K is his price, but he's been consistent. He's been consistent in the first 2 games of the season. He's recorded 70-plus receiving yards and 6 receptions. You can really sense a good connection between him and Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he's felt the most comfortable that he has in a while, and that shows. And I anticipate that he will continue to do that against the Giants this Sunday, given his consistency and also how the Giants have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to wideouts this year. So I think that his stock is climbing, and could be a good play on Sunday.
He's been steady the first 2 weeks since Lamar time before he gets in the end zone. He's too good to not to, so I like that pick a lot. I'm going to my second pick, which is who I nicknamed Frankenstein. Everybody's got their nicknames. I nicknamed this guy Percy Harvin, okay? He is a machine. He's healthy this year. He got shut down last week a little bit, but he did run a jet sweep for 51 yards. He stepped out of bounds. The NFL just all of a sudden didn't notice, and then they finally, after the game, said that he did step out of bounds. But it doesn't matter. They gave you the touchdown if you had him, and I like him this week against the Super Bowl, well, they lost Super Bowl, Denver, but the Super Bowl rematch, I think he's going to have a big game. I think they're going to give him jet sweeps. I think Wilson's going to find him in the flats. I think once he gets the ball in his hands, he's dynamic. He can run upfield. He can break tackles, and he can take it to the house from anywhere. So I really like Percy Harvin this week. Let's just say one more thing. Denver is second to last, 31st in the league against the pass. That's terrible. They played luck in the first game, and they almost let them come back and win the game. They played the Chiefs in the second game, and of course Alex Smith is just not much of a passer anyway, and they let him kind of pass a little bit. So I really like Russell Wilson, and I like Harvin to complement him, and that's my second receiver.
Well, I had Alshon Jeffrey. So when you talk about the Bears receivers, you have to first look at who's throwing the ball, and that's Jay Cutler. He's a bit wild, as I've mentioned in previous shows, but a lot of people didn't think that he was going to do too well last week. But he ended up shredding the Niners for 4 touchdowns, Cutler. So I look for him to really exploit this Jets defense. When you look at it, you have Carr and Rodgers were able to exploit their defense a little bit in previous weeks, but. One stat to keep in mind with Jeffrey is he has generated 3 scores in his last 4 road games. So that's something to look at between him and Marshall and Bennett. I think that he could be getting some receptions, no question.
The Jets are going to watch that tape last week, and they're going to double team Marshall this week. They're not going to let him. And I think that's going to really give Jeffrey some open looks, and I think he's going to have a good game. I agree. I like that pick a lot. Going to my last pick, my value pick, $9,875. He's been just jumping up the board. The old man, Steve Smith, senior now, because he's got the other Smith, Torrey Smith, on the other side, so he had to put senior on the back of his jersey so you could tell him apart. And we're definitely telling this guy apart because he is getting fed the ball. Flacco loves him. He looks quick. He looks explosive. He's playing the 30th pass. Cleveland has the 30th worst pass defense in the league. They're just getting pounded through the air. I think Flacco finds this guy. He's had 25 targets through 2 games. I think he's going to have another 10-plus targets, and I think he could easily top 80, 90, 100 yards and throw in a touchdown there. And I think at $9,875, that's a great play, and so I like Steve Smith a lot this week.
Well, since you took my last receiver, I'm going to start off the top value at tight end, and that's Delaney Walker, Tennessee Titans. He's going up against Cincinnati Bengals. He's priced at $7.9K. The Jets have defended tight ends fairly well to start the season, so I have to pass on Bennett. I mentioned his name just in the earlier segment, but I like Walker a lot. He has a league-leading number. He had a league-leading number of receptions last week for 10, at least in terms of tight ends. The Bengals have struggled against tight ends in week 1 with Dennis Pitta as well as with Owen Daniels. But I expect Wisenhunt to get Walker the ball. So I like Walker.
And let me just say, you had Walker last week, and he had a huge.
I did.
I'm a
big
huge
fan.
game. So that was a great play by you. I'm going with another old man. $9,875. Antonio Gates. No, he's not out of the league. Yes, he still plays for San Diego, and yes, he had 3 touchdowns last week. And I feel like he's right back in the saddle with Phillip Rivers throwing him the ball. He's playing at Buffalo. They are the 28th worst pass defense in the league. It's bad. They give up a lot of yards through the air. Antonio Gates is going to be running those cross patterns, and he doesn't look fast or explosive to me, but he just is getting fed the ball, and I think he can get open, and I think he's going to get another 10 plus targets this week and get in the end zone. And so I really like Gates against Buffalo just for this matchup.
And let's not forget that Ryan Matthews is out with his knee.
Right. That's right.
So Gates could be fed even more.
That's right. That's right. Donald Brown is going to be filling in for Matthews, and he's okay. He's a pretty good back. But yes, they're going to have to go through the air to gain yards. So I like that. I like that point.
For my top kicker value, I have Shane Graham of the New Orleans Saints going up against Minnesota Vikings, just over 7K. Well, I think Drew Brees is not handling this loss very well last week. The Saints are 0-2. He's hungry for victory. I really think this is going to be a blowout game. I think that Saints are going to put up a lot of points on the board, and I think naturally you're going to have Shane Graham going to reap those benefits. In 6 of his last 7 games inside a dome, the veteran has successfully converted on multiple field goal attempts, including 3 in which he made 3 field goal conversions. So something to look at. Saints are going to put points up on the board, no question.
For my kicker, I went with Justin Tucker, $7,298. He's one of the top kickers on the board, but he's at Cleveland, who has the last defense in the league. They're giving up 450 yards a game. Let me say that again, 450 yards a game. I think Baltimore pretty much scores anytime they want against this team. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. Cleveland's going to score too, but I think Baltimore's going to win this game. I think there's going to be field goals mixed in there, and Tucker can hit from deep, especially if they can get inside the 40 and 30, which I think they'll be in a lot. So I like Tucker for big points, especially against the worst defense in the league. Take Tucker.
For my defense, my value pick for defense and special teams, I have the Houston Texans going up against New York. I've already talked a little bit about the Giants and how poor they have been offensively and even defensively as well. Houston, they're not recording the sacks and the turnovers that you would like to see if you're going to start defense. However, they've been keeping offenses out of the red zone, and that's very important. And you have Eli Manning to start the season, who has 4 interceptions. So I think that you're going to have J.J. Swat and company, who are definitely going to have their hands on a lot of action this week against this Giants team that just does not look very good right now.
I agree. I think that's a good play. Absolutely. The Giants are horrible. Absolutely horrible. I mean, Eli Manning, what happened, buddy? I mean, come on. If you're going to play like this, just quit. Really. I mean, your brother's making you look terrible. I mean, you shouldn't even do any more commercials with them. You're so bad. Seriously.
He already has a ring, right?
He's got 2 rings.
He's got 2 rings.
He's got 2 rings, but I mean, what does that mean when you get bad and you're this bad? Either you got to talk to the offensive coordinator and say, listen, this isn't working. Let's go back to what we were doing, right. or just step aside and let somebody else come in. You cannot play like this. It is pitiful. Call your brother on the phone. Have a discussion. It's bad. It's bad. For my defense, I'm going with a really huge sleeper. This defense is terrible, but it doesn't matter. The Dallas Cowboys, $3,165. Wow. They had one of the historically worst defenses in the league last year, but they're playing the Rams. The Rams stink. The Rams are terrible. They're averaging 12.5 points a game. That's pitiful. I don't see any way they can score, even against a college team. I'm serious. They're that bad. They have nobody on offense. Zach Stacy, under 4 yards a carry last year. He's just a plotter. They have Brian Quick, who's playing pretty decent, but he's their only guy. Tavon Austin is a bust. Take Dallas. They can do something this week. I really think they can put up 10, 12 plus points against this horrible, horrible offense.
That could be a sneaky play, Tony.
I'm telling you, it is a sneaky play, for sure.
That could be. Well, guys, that wraps it up for today. Remember, do your research and choose your team wisely if you want to become fantasy sports royalty. I'm Frank Travis. This is Tony Badalucco. We'll see you later from Kansas City, Missouri.
See you in week 4, guys.